we've given you a little bit of a flavor for the type of work we're doing at Crate. We use different methods, and Chris Erickson, he's a professor of social data science. He's a communication sociologist working mainly quantitatively. But we have a range of methods, and it would not surprise you that our approach to the public domain is more behavioral. So what matters for society, really, what can I do without asking for permission? And that matters for how we develop as a society, but it also matters for economic innovation and growth. So if you are a policymaker, you are less interested really, or you should be less interested in the doctrinal question or in the ontological question. You should be interested in what can I do. So now I reverse the stick. That's another ongoing study in Crate, so where we trying to track agreements between content providers and AI developers. So this is essentially the license economy in relating to AI models. So why is that relevant for the public domain? Well, we come back to this, but public domain works and material are being licensed already. But some of this we don't see here, but we'll come back in the questions for the policy recommendations how to deal with this. So we started tracking about a year ago all what we call known commercial agreements, because we don't quite know what these agreements really are. So we don't know whether they're licenses, copyright licenses, whether they're data access, whether they're equity stakes, but some of them have to be reported because of stock market implications, others are surfacing because of press reports. So there's a variety of sources how you can find out what surfaces. So there are many more than the ones we track, but if they become public, we're confident we capture them. So we then catalog them by all number of variables we can. Sometimes we find out about the content of the agreements, more often not, but we can identify the sectors, the companies involved. There are a lot of different variables in here. And so we published the data as it was in February last year. We updated it now, and we are currently in a project for the UK government where this will feed into another study. So within the next couple of months, I think you will get the full data set here. But just this gives you a flavor. So what happened out there? So we really started to move towards a more licensing approach to model training after the release of ChatGPT. And then once it became clear that litigation was happening in a major way in the US in 2024 onwards, and also after it became clear towards the end of same year that the AI Act would make the rights reservation under Article 4 a risk for releasing in Europe. So there's been a change in the way the industry approached training. So who is in here? So this is the list of purchasers. So these are AI companies which have concluded agreements. And there's just one interesting observation here at the outset, is that the new kids on the block are much more active than the big tech companies. That's not that surprising, because if you are Google, you've got most of the data you need already. You may have it through Google Books, or you may have it through terms of conditions when you upload to YouTube. So the situation is quite different for a new entrant than to somebody who is already a big company. So most interesting for us here in the public domain room is, so who is on the other side? So who makes these agreements? We organize them by sector. And you can see that the most active licensors are the news and media, which in some ways is probably linked to the integration of AI summaries into search, which started to take off about a year ago. And apart from that, scholarly publications are quite big. Image libraries, but it's spreading everywhere now. So what does that mean for our group? So we don't see at this moment major collections surfacing here. We know that, for example, it is UK government policy that institutions are encouraged to become part of the licensing economy. And we have already heard how under the omnibus, the way it's conceived for data in the European Union may change as well. So under which conditions data which may or may not be already in the public domain becomes part of the licensing economy is one of the key questions here. And another important aspect is so licensing in the news and media sector mostly happens via data access to an API. So if you make a deal as an AI company with Financial Times, you get access to the API against a serious amount of money. So that same approach is now also being used in some of the open community, and in my view, quite sensibly. So the AI scrapers are all over the web, and for example, Wikimedia now offers access to the API, on a commercial basis to in some ways to manage the traffic, and that type of model may well turn up in many of the sectors you work in. It could well be that API access against money may be something that it's anticipated in the omnibus, that may be a business model. So here we've got again the tension between which also Aline articulated very clearly for the Brazilian case. So you've got the tension here. So we have as a policy we want to make something available for open access, but also we have got economic pressures on scraping, and we don't know what happens with the data. So that tension, that paradox is very hard to negotiate, and it's also one where copyright policy can't pull a lever. So again, I think that's an important lesson from what the message I give you from this data. So there is, the doctrinal lawyer who thinks there can be a TDM solution to this licensing problem, they're barking up the wrong tree. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.